Hello, my Italian food fanatics. Today we're going to make a gourmet version of a classic peasant dish from Naples. It's called Spaghetti Aglio e Olio, but this is a gourmet version, and you can see it right here. I'm sure you saw it in the picture. It's reminiscent of the Italian flag. It's got the parsley, it's got the red pepper, and it has the spaghetti with the breadcrumbs. Everything from Cucina Povera, but in a gourmet way. So let's not waste any time. It is an involved recipe, but you can do it. It's easy. I show you everything, every little nuance on how to make it. So come on, let's get in the kitchen and make it right about now. You're gonna love it. It's gonna be something that you can serve to anyone, even an Italian, and they'll appreciate it. Come on, let's go. Hello, my Italian food fanatics. Today we're going to make a special gourmet version of Spaghetti Aglio e Olio. We start with spaghetti, a very high quality spaghetti that is. We also have some flat leaf parsley leaves, a couple of red peppers, some garlic, of course. We're going to use some stale bread, and believe it or not, we're going to use some rigatoni. Now, I know what you're thinking, it's absolutely crazy. How does rigatoni figure into this whole thing? And you'll see in just a moment. So now let's go to the stove. All right, first things first, we need to get a couple of pots on the flame and get water in them and get them to boil. And in a smaller pot, now that we have two regular sauce pots here on the boil, or on the flame getting ready to boil, we'll put our garlic into this small saucepan, and we're going to cover it with milk and bring this to a boil. And we're going to do this 3 times, believe it or not. And the reason for this is because we are going to not cook the garlic any more than what you see in this pot. Put it in milk, bring it to the boil, strain. Put it in fresh, cold milk, bring it to the boil and strain, and then do it once again. So this garlic is going to be pureed. It's not going to be cooked. And what we need to do is mellow the flavor out because it's very, very harsh. Now we can also do this in water, but in milk it works much better. And you notice that I've sliced the cloves in half because the center part tends to be the most pungent. We need the milk to penetrate and leach out the strength of the garlic, the really pungent part of the garlic. And so that's why we sliced them in half and used milk. And we'll be back when that comes to a boil. In the meantime, while we're waiting for our garlic and water to come to a boil, we're going to take our bread and we're going to make breadcrumbs by just taking a box grater and rubbing the bread on the box grater. So you don't need a food processor or a blender or anything like that. We're going to do it the old-fashioned Italian way by taking stale bread and grating it to make breadcrumbs. We'll be back when that's done. Okay, you can see that our milk is coming to a boil, and before it boils over, we're going to turn it over, we're going to turn it off, and we will use a strainer to drain the garlic. Put it back in the pot, and again, repeat the process of adding milk, turning the heat on, and letting it come to a boil for the second time. And we'll be back when that's done. And now our first pot of water has come to a boil. What we're going to do is we're going to add a little bit of salt in there, and we're going to take our rigatoni that we had off to the side, this kind of a less expensive, non-gourmet, bottom of the barrel, but still made in Italy, rigatoni. And what we're going to do is boil it to make pasta water, to make a very concentrated pasta water that we're going to use a little bit later on, and you'll see how in a moment. In the meantime, our second iteration of the garlic has come to a boil, and we're going to let that come up to the top and then do as we did before and drain it, and repeat this again for the third and the last time. Add milk, turn up the heat, and bring it to a full boil. So we'll be back when that's done. Okay, now that we have our bread that has been grated, we're now going to put it through this sieve, and you can push some of it through. Obviously, you're not going to get everything perfectly small for these, but this is a gourmet version, and so consequently we're going to have some refinements here, let's put it that way. And so we'll just push what we can through this sieve, and the rest we'll essentially un-Italian likely discard. And so I think that's going to be enough. That's enough breadcrumbs for us, more than enough for our use. And as you can see, our garlic is coming to a boil for a third and final time. I'll turn off the heat and we'll strain it again. So we've strained the garlic, and now what I'm going to do is actually rinse it off and place it back into our container. Now, as you can see, I've rinsed the garlic off, and it sort of becomes somewhat translucent, believe it or not, and that's exactly what we want. And now we'll reserve this for a later use. In the meantime, I'm going to move the camera just so that you can see we have our pasta that's boiling away, and we also have another pot of water here that has been brought to the boil. We're going to add a little bit of salt to this water. Just a little bit. There's no real need to measure anything here, because what we're going to be doing is blanching our leaves in this water. But first, I have to get a bowl filled with ice water so that we can shock the leaves once they're done blanching. All right, now that our water is boiling, we'll add in our leaves, and we're just going to blanch them. We'll leave them in there for a few seconds. What this does is, once we've taken them out of the boiling water, we're going to put them in ice water to shock them. And because it's salt water, especially with a green pigment, what this will do is it will fix the color of the parsley so it doesn't fade. And that's very important for the little sauce that we're going to make in just a moment. So they're pretty much blanched. I mean, we've been here for just a few seconds. We want to soften them a little bit, set the color, and then remove them and shock them so they don't cook any further. All right? And in just a couple of seconds, that should be enough. You can see how they're getting a little bit dark, which is exactly what we want, but not too dark. So there we go. And now the leaves go in the ice water to set the color. So you can see them here. And we'll just leave them in there so they can cool down until we're ready to use them. In the meantime, while we are waiting on our pasta water to get very thick and full of that starch, we are going to roast these 2 red peppers on an open flame until they're completely black on all sides. You can hear them almost popping now, and we'll come back when that's done, and then we have to toast the breadcrumbs. And you can see slowly how the skins are getting burned or charred. That's exactly what we want. This builds a smoky flavor into the peppers, and it also is going to make peeling their skins, which are not exactly desirable, a lot easier. In some instances, you may need to take a pair of tongs, depending on the grates that you have on your stove, and hold them over the fire like this. You can also put them under a broiler in the oven and char them that way. I find this to be a little bit more efficient, faster, and even though it's a little bit more labor intensive because you have to be there, there's less chance of ruining the peppers this way. And you can see how the skin of the pepper is sort of peeling back already. That's exactly what we're looking for. All right, now that our peppers are charred, we're going to place them inside of this bowl and cover it with plastic wrap. And what that will do is allow the peppers to steam in there, and it will make removing their skins very easy. In the meantime, as you can see, we are cooking the life out of this pasta. What I want to do is the starches to leach into the water, and we're going to use that pasta water in just a moment. Now it's time to toast the breadcrumbs. We take the breadcrumbs and pour them into a saute pan like this, or a skillet, whatever you want to call it. We'll turn the heat on, and now we're going to use a little bit of California extra virgin olive oil, as is our right and pleasure to do so. And if we keep this moving, I know it doesn't look right now, but it will in a little while, as the oil heats up and dissipates itself around with the breadcrumbs, we will get beautifully toasted breadcrumbs. And I'll be back when we're through with this. I also have another video, by the way, on how to do this with the panko breadcrumbs, and it's essentially the same thing. So what I'm going to do is I'm not going to bother to show you exactly how this is done. It's the same process with the panko breadcrumbs. It's one of my videos. You can look it up. This is just with a baguette bread that has been that was stale, and we're going to do the exact same thing. All right, our pasta has been cooked, and all we did that was for the water. All right, we use a very low quality pasta for that, so it's not so expensive. Some of this pasta that's imported from Italy can be extremely expensive. And so what we're going to do is we're going to drain the pasta just like this. We're going to let this sit for a little while. We're going to end up throwing this out, although a good Italian would probably keep it and find a use for it. But we're going to reserve the water, because that's exactly why we've done this. Okay, you can see that our breadcrumbs are beautifully toasted, and now we're going to have to cool them down. So there you go. That's what they should look like, a beautiful brown like that. All right? That color equals flavor. And we're going to use that to finish our pasta, which is traditional with olio, and we're going to do this but in a gourmet way. You'll see. All right. These peppers have been steaming inside of here for about 10 minutes now, and they're perfect for removing the skin. You can see how easily that skin comes off. Now, if I were you and I was not used to dealing with hot peppers as I am, I would caution you to wear gloves while you do this, all right? Because the capsaicin will get into your pores and your skin, and for the rest of the day and for quite some time, your fingers may burn, all right? burn as in being hot. And if you're not used to that and you don't know what's going on, it's not going to stop. So I would caution you to wear the gloves, all right? So we have one there, and here is the second one. And look how easily these skins peel right off once they've been properly charred, all right? And you can see how underneath it's not burnt or black or anything like that. But believe it or not, this sort of charring deepens their flavor, sets their color as well. And what we're going to do now is cut them open and remove the seeds. So, because I don't want the seeds in this sauce that you're going to see me make in a little while. So, but I'm going to leave these veins in here because these veins also have capsaicin in them. And we're going to want a little bit of heat. At least I do. And that's part of this Neapolitan dish as well, is using hot pepper. And it can be in the wintertime when they don't have fresh peppers available, they use the dried peppers, which are just as legitimate to use as fresh peppers. So I cut these open and then remove the seeds. You do not want to rinse these down because that, believe it or not, takes away a lot of flavor. But you do want to get rid of the seeds. And these seeds are very pesky. As you can see, there's one, they're attached all over. They get all over. You turn one over, you turn the pepper over, and then they're on the other side. But that one's pretty clean. And so now we'll clean this up and come back and make our sauces. Okay, we're now going to make our different sauces, and we'll start with the red pepper since we just ended with it. I'm going to take a 1 ounce ladle, and I'm going to put 1 ounce, probably 1.5 ounces of that pasta water inside of the container for the magic bullet. Now there's a reason I'm using the magic bullet is because I have it. It's small. It's perfect for this use, but you can use a food processor. You can use literally anything that you want, including an immersion blender, to get the same job done. And what I'm going to do here is just chop up the peppers really quickly, and we'll put them inside of the container, and we're going to blitz them. And I'll be back when we're blitzing them. All right, so we have the peppers inside of there, and now we're going to blitz them up. I know it's loud. Hopefully you can hear me talking over the blitzing. We're going to mix those up really, really well and get them pulverized. And then we're going to strain them. Okay, now that we're back, we've pulverized or liquefied the peppers. We're going to now also add 1 ounce of extra virgin olive oil into that mix as well. The reason why I do this second and not all together is because the extra virgin olive oil is very viscous and it will stop the peppers from properly liquidizing. In fact, you can even see inside of there that not all of the peppers have been liquidized. But now we're just going to mix it up to essentially create an emulsion. All right. Now that we have liquidized everything and mixed it in with the olive oil, we're now going to strain this through a very fine mesh strainer, a small one. And on top of that, we're just going to shake it a little bit like this. We are not going to press the solids through. We don't want any of those solids in there. We want a very fine, silky sort of a sauce. And you can see as I shake the strainer that the sauce does go through, and it will leave those larger bits in the strainer. And normally a lot of guys would push this through, but we're not going to do that. We don't want to force anything. If it's not part of the sauce, then we don't want it. That's perfect. We'll be back to do the parsley. And once this is done, we're going to take it and very carefully pour it into a plastic bottle. That we're going to use to decorate the plate. You'll see what I mean when we're done. So there we go. That's our sauce. And now we're going to do the same thing with the parsley. So the parsley's been in the water. I've just squeezed it out a little bit. And it's going to go into the pasta water here. And we're going to make a sauce with it. Now, since the water has already been salted, and I did salt the pasta water, there's really no need to add any salt into these sauces. They've already been salted. That water has salt in it, and so consequently they'll be properly seasoned. And we'll come back when I've got this going.
All right, we have the parsley going in the pasta water, and in a couple of seconds, we're going to add in our olive oil. Let it liquidize. We'll be back. All right, it has spun up. These are pretty tight. I put them on pretty tight. You want to put them on very, very tight.
And so we're going to add now our olive oil, as we did before, and give it another spin. Now the same thing with the red pepper is with the parsley, is that you can, with the red pepper, you could feel the heat as it goes in your nostrils. And with this, you can smell the herbaceousness of the parsley. It's absolutely fantastic. It's beautiful.
So we'll re-liquidize this to give it a little bit of a mix with the oil.
And now that our sauce is ready, we'll do the same thing that we did with the red sauce, and that is strain it. This is less viscous than the other one.
Okay, and now the exact same thing we're going to do here with the garlic. We're going to put about 1.5 ounces of pasta water in there. We're going to put our garlic inside and spin it up.
All right, this has been liquidized. The garlic and the pasta water. This is really well liquidized. I like that a lot. We're not going to strain this, but we are going to add our olive oil because after all, it is a dish of olive oil and garlic, or garlic and olive oil. I'm going to add about 1.5 ounces, the same amount that we had of the pasta water. All right, and we'll spin this up, and then we can go about making our dish. All the elements are ready. All right, now that's completely spun up. We'll take this and we'll pour this liquid gold into our container, our bowl, our mise en place bowl, and we're just going to leave it like that. We'll be back when it's time to make the pasta. In the meantime, while we're getting things cleaned up, we're going to put a sauce pot on the fire, and we're going to add exactly 4 cups of water. And when that comes to a boil, we will then add exactly 2 teaspoons of regular table salt, just like I always do, for smaller portions, that is. We'll be back. Okay, now that our water is to a rolling boil, we can go ahead and add in our salt, exactly 2 teaspoons full of regular table salt. You don't have to add kosher salt. You don't have to add rock salt. You don't have to add any kind of special salt, okay? This is salt Salt is salt, NaCl. It is going to flavor the water, whether it's in big crystals or small crystals, so you might as well get the least expensive salt, table salt, that you can find. It's useless to put a gourmet salt in your pasta water. All right? So there you go. And it's only the minerals that create the color that you see in the salt, and those minerals do not add any flavor, any noticeable flavor anyway. Some people claim they can taste the difference, but I bet you in a blind taste test, if I put out 5 different types of gourmet salt, nobody would be able to tell me which one is which, especially if it's pulverized to the same texture. All right? So there's really no need to use that. We'll now take our spaghetti and we put it in the water. And you don't want to break it. You don't want to push it down. You just want to leave it like this. We want those long strands. And you can see this is a nice quality spaghetti because it's not yellowish. It is an off, sort of a dusty golden or dusty yellow. And that's because it is rough on the outside, believe it or not. And that's because it was extruded through bronze dyes and slowly dried. All right, not an industrial production of pasta. So we'll come back when this is almost done. It's going to take about 7 minutes to get done, and because we're not going to cook it any further, this has to be finished in the same water that it's now cooking, unlike other pastas which you finish in the sauce. We'll be back. Okay, our pasta is almost ready. We have a couple of more minutes. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to take this garlic sauce that we have, and we're going to put it in the pan in readiness for the pasta. Now you notice how smooth and creamy it is. When that pasta gets into this pan, the pasta is going to soak it up and it's going to get coated by it. And we're going to add some of our breadcrumbs in there as well to really make it a gourmet version of a true Neapolitan Cucina Povera dish. We'll be back. Okay, our pasta is done. And we're now going to take it and bring it in. It's just a little bit underdone, meaning maybe 30 more seconds and it will be perfect. Now I've made a couple of portions here. So this is apropos about what I normally do. And we'll mix this in here like this to coat all of the strands. And you'll notice how beautifully the pasta just gets coated with that oil and garlic and pasta water mixture. We don't need to add any pasta water into here. And now we're going to take some of our breadcrumbs that we toasted earlier and add them in there, giving this a real Neapolitan poor kitchen Cucina Povera feel and look. Now let's plate it up. I got another surprise in store for you. And there you go. The Italian flag, made out of aglio e olio. Your hot pepper, your parsley, your spaghetti with the breadcrumbs. It's perfect. Enjoy. All right, here we are, my Italian food fanatics, and we're going to taste this thing. Oh boy, look how sweet it is. Now, the thing about this is that we have two different sauces here, and so what I'm going to do is put a little bit of the spaghetti in the parsley end of it, and we're going to taste that by itself. I tell you what, that tastes fantastic. Then we'll take some and put it in the hot pepper side. Boy, that has a kick. Wow. Excuse me. But wow, does that taste good. The parsley's got this very nice herbaceousness to it. And of course, as I mentioned, the hot pepper is definitely hot, that's for sure. And it's delicious. You got to try it, all right? You got to try this. It would be something pretty cool. You can make a large portion of it, put it on a big plate, and pour the sauces around it. Wow. If you like my channel, please hit the thumbs up button, like, subscribe, ring the bell so you'll get notifications of when I upload another video, which is almost on a daily basis, believe it or not. And leave a comment if you like. Now, I had a comment left by somebody the other day on one of my other videos, of course, that said, if it's not made in Italy, meaning if you're not actually in Italy and making it, it's not Italian. I don't know what bent this person comes from, but that means Vincenzo's plate in Australia definitely can't be Italian, even though he's from Abruzzo and he's an Italian and he knows how to make Italian food. All of a sudden, if that's the case, then Vincenzo's plate cannot be Italian. How ridiculous could that be? Or Eva and Harper in Arizona, here in America. Eva's food cannot be Italian, even though she's from Calabria and she's living in Arizona, cooking with Harper, cooking Italian food, taking people on Italian tours. You have got to be kidding me. So comments like that from people that are, for whatever reason, upset or distraught. I don't know what it is. I can't control the world. Those are ridiculous, right? If you have a comment that's derogatory or something like that, or something that you don't like, at least have a little bit of substance behind it, okay? Let's not be ridiculous, all right? And I already explained on that particular video that this was an American Italian version. I never claimed that it was an Italian version, and it was shown to me by an American Italian. I put American first and Italian second because he was born in America, never been to Italy, but his parents, he was the first generation. So how can you say these things? It's ridiculous. When the Italians came to the New World, they had to make adjustments for things they couldn't find based on where they were located. In the wintertime, you can't find fresh herbs, for example, basil in upstate New York, especially in the 40s and 50s. Are you kidding me? So they had to use dry basil. They made do with what they had when they came here because they didn't have the things that they had back home, or they were very expensive to import, like Parmigiano Reggiano. The American Italians used the Parmesan in the green can because that's what was affordable and available. Are you crazy? Today, we can have this stuff here. But back then, it was impossible and out of the budgets of people to get that stuff. So how do you blame them? They're all of a sudden not Italian because of this? It's ridiculous. So anyway, keep that in mind. If you have constructive criticism, you want to put a comment there that I don't like this or whatever, go ahead, that's fine. But have some substance, have some constructive criticism behind it. Don't just say, if you're not in Italy and it's not made in Italy, it cannot be Italian. That is ridiculous. With that said, I'm sorry I had to go on that rant, okay? With that said, you have to try this. I'm telling you, it's phenomenal. Perfectly seasoned, pasta perfectly cooked. Now come on, stop looking at me. Get in the kitchen and make it yourself, all right? All of the amounts and everything like that are gonna be on my website, gsargenti.com, G-S-A-R-G-E-N-T-I, gsargenti.com. It should be in the lower corner here, that website. Anyway, thank you very much for your likes and subscriptions. I really appreciate it. Give me a thumbs up. Thank you. Have a great day. Bye-bye.